Hello everybody, I'm Charna Davis-Wiese. Welcome to UCF Profiles, a really special show today. You're going to meet a UCF alumni who has taken the biggest personal challenge of her life and has turned it into a wonderful story not only for herself but for many other people. Join me in welcoming Rachel Brignoni.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
And the subject is something that's really big and a hot topic since the movie Juno.
Yeah.
Brought this into the limelight, maybe helps you a little bit in getting your cause out. It's about pregnant teenagers.
Yes.
And before we go into this, and I shared this with you before, one of my biggest impacts that I had as a reporter was the day of the Challenger disaster. And when the Challenger explosion happened, we were at the Beta House for pregnant teenage girls. My photographer and I had a partner for many years. And seeing what those girls were putting up with, not even the fact of their pregnancy, but what they were putting up with in their lives from the people around them, upset us so much. And as terrible as that space shuttle disaster was, the Beta House experience really moved both of us more. So you understand that because you lived it.
Absolutely.
16 years old.
Yeah.
Kid having a great time,
Yeah.
you know, just being a kid, and then everything changes in your life.
Absolutely. You know, I was 17 when I had my son, and at the time, you know, I think one of the perceptions is that the girls really feel horrified by the circumstance, but really, you don't know what to expect, and it's more of like, okay, you know, you're not worried about, you don't have the experience and
deal
the
with
education. You just deal with it. You say, okay. And so really what people say around you, and you're still so vulnerable because you've been a teen your whole life, and the act of a pregnancy doesn't really turn you into an adult who can reflect and, you know, make empowered decisions. It doesn't do any of that. You're still the teen,
Whatever.
Going off to, going off, going off
movies.
with your friends, doing normal things. And so it's a huge experience, and I think that really as a, something that would have helped me, I know back then, is to really just have had a little more support and just encouragement from people, not only in my family and my friends, but just strangers, the common courtesy, some of that stuff. So that's really, one of my big messages is just to make sure that we're giving that to the girls.
What I want to do is you put together a music video for a song that you have written.
Yes.
And I'd like to take a look at that first, and then we can talk about what we see through that bit by bit.
Okay.
Let's take a look.
It's a part of your life and a journey through love. There is no question. It's a gift from above. Hope is a whisper that inspires your soul. It calls you to action. It wants you to grow. It seeks to ignite an unstoppable flame, encouraging you to get back in life's game. Your thoughts have been lifted from the depth of your pain. They awaken your life. It'll never be the same. You're conscious of doubt and highlight your shame, but doubt is replaced when he calls you by name. Hope is a whisper that inspires your soul. It calls you to action. It wants you to grow. It seeks to ignite an unstoppable flame, encouraging you to get back in life's game. A baby with your eyes that just melt into love. 'Cause you made a decision, it wasn't easy to do. You struggled with doubt, but only you know you're true. Hope is a whisper that inspires your soul. It calls you to action, it wants you to grow. It seeks to ignite an unstoppable flame, encouraging you to get back in life's game. Joy is the outcome of creating a new life, feeling you've changed, finding courage through strife. You have found a new strength that was sent from above, a new depth of feeling that grows with a mother's love. Hope was a whisper that inspired your soul. It called you to action, so now you can grow. You're free to ignite an unstoppable flame. Released you will find life's lesson of grace as a part of your life and a journey through love. There is no question. It's a gift from above.
Hey Mom, you ready to go?
I'll be right there.
Okay.
That sight of her with the battered book
Yeah.
and the photograph was something as a teenager. There's no way, even if someone explained it to you and walked you through bit by bit emotionally, for you to have understood the big picture and where it was going.
Absolutely.
You know, when you get the news that you're pregnant, hopefully it's so joyous, but there it was almost like being diagnosed with a terminal illness.
Well, I'll tell you, for me, what it felt like was, I don't know if the being pregnant was the biggest thing. It was the disappointment that it would bring to my family. I think that was the...
I gotta tell everybody.
That was, and I come from a Catholic family. I mean, this isn't supposed to happen to Catholics, and so there was the element of, kind of my upbringing and all of that, and, I come from a small town, so it was just a huge deal, and it was more of just who I was going to have to face, not necessarily that I was pregnant.
Plus there was so much going on in your family.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it wasn't, it was just, I really, the idea of getting pregnant and, wanting to have a baby, that wasn't it wasn't a planned thing. This wasn't something that I said, I'd really like to be a mom at this point in my life.
Were you in 10th grade?
I was actually a senior. I was graduated. I skipped a year in school, so I had some credits from 8th grade.
So you were the perfect child. You were the picture of the perfect child, and you probably, growing up as being the good one,
Yes.
and you had to come to your mother and take away that image that you worked so hard for,
Yeah.
and that was your role in your family.
Well, I was the second one down, so I have a sister who's 15 months older than I am. So she really was the one who was graced with the good role. So I, being the second one down, had a little more opportunity to be
like a real
little
kid?
More, I was more rebellious, and I acted out a little bit more, and I was, you know, I was homecoming, princess, cheerleader, so all the standard stuff that you would say, this is somebody who's really got their life together. Nothing could possibly happen.
And in reality, you did.
Of course, I did, you know, and I
You
think,
made the wrong choice.
well,
at one
I don't,
point.
you know, I just wasn't thinking. I don't know that I was doing something much different than a lot of my friends were
Right.
doing.
Or are doing right now.
Or are still doing. But I think that, you know, I just put myself in a position where I certainly wasn't, you know, thinking ahead,
Mhm.
which is really what my book talks to the girls about. Okay, so you're pregnant, you have this circumstance. Now let's think ahead.
Because it's
Don't
not
cont-
only your life.
now you're affecting someone else, and you affect your family. I mean, that's a very hard thing for a family to go through. I mean, I remember my sister when I told her.
Did you tell her first?
I told her first. Yes, I was so scared. I was like, oh, who am I going to tell? And then, of course, I told my sister. She was 15 months older. I remember she was like, no, I mean, you please don't tell me this is true. And I said, yeah, it's true. And she said, well, whatever you do, don't tell Mom when I'm there.
I thought you say, don't tell Mom.
No,
It's like,
don't
that's
tell
not right.
Mom when I'm there. She knew I was going to tell Mom. She just don't tell her when I'm there. So,
I bet that didn't help.
You know, I could understand though. I could understand because the same reaction she thought.
Now, was your mother divorcing then already?
My mom, at that point, you know, things weren't great, so she wasn't really going through a divorce yet.
It was
That
probably
came-
even worse than the divorcing part. Right
for my
before the
mom-
divorce
my
for her.
mom, absolutely. Well, she was crushed because she, you know, of course, had big plans for me, and you know, I skipped a grade, so I was going to go to college. I had signed up for Valencia. You know, I mean, my life was going. You know, it was going.
She had the plan.
So, and she asked me. I did tell my mom, and she said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to have the baby," and you know,
Of course.
you know, that's just what made sense to me.
Right.
And so I just carried on, and it was really after I had Kyle, that moment where you're in the hospital and they bring
There's
the
a
baby
person,
to you. and
separate.
Totally. They, you know, they set him down in front of me, and I just remember the absolute horror of not knowing what I was doing. Like that's when it hit me. Until then, it was kind of fun, and I was experiencing, you know, changing and trying to deal with people not accepting that, and you know, kind of doing my own thing. And then when he was brought to me, just that overwhelming. And all moms feel that. That's not a pregnant teen thing. That's a new mom thing. This is my first baby thing.
And it's
But
up
it
to
was-
me the kind of person this person's going to become.
You got it. And so that was really, he was really, my life could have gone down two paths. I mean, I was going to be wild, act out, eventually die at a very early age. Or get pregnant, make a decision, and change things around. And so I guess I could have looked at him as, you know, the worst thing in my life, or as really an opportunity to make some changes. Because I needed
He
to
saved
make
your
change.
life.
He absolutely saved my life.
Now, did you have, when you were pregnant, did you have the new little sister at that time, or was your mom
Yes.
pregnant?
No, I had a sister.
So she
was
had
very
just had a
young.
baby
She
when
just-
you told her you were pregnant.
Yes, yes. So
And she's going
imagine-
through a divorce.
Yes. So imagine, I mean, her life probably at that point was crashing down.
Now
on
I
her.
see why your sister didn't want to be in the same
Yeah,
room.
yeah. She's like, whatever you do, don't tell Mom when
Make
I'm
sure
there.
I'm out of
you know?
town.
Yeah, exactly. So it was.
But
you
I
know,
bet she, you know what, now that you're a mom, I bet she took it a lot better than you thought she would.
Well, you know what she said to me, and it was, I remember at the time thinking it was so profound because my mom had always really kind of told us what to do, and I mean, she was very protective, and I remember when I told her, and I expected really kind of her lashing out and saying, I can't believe, you know, and just, you know, the world crashing down on me, and she just looked at me and she said, oh, okay, what are you going to do? And I remember in that moment feeling
You grew up,
that-
it was your decision.
Absolutely. That from here on out, Mom is not telling me what to do. It's going to be me and my decision. So while it was kind of a harsh reality, it was very empowering. So, you know, my mom's reaction, I think, in a lot of ways strengthened me and helped me own that, okay, well, deal with it. And I can imagine, and she tells me today, that was the hardest thing she had to do. You know, 'cause
And she had
some
to,
ideas.
and she
of
had
how
to
to-
think on her feet. I mean,
I
she
mean,
didn't
that
know this was coming.
No, she didn't. I mean, I brought home, you know, lunch for us, and I said, Mom, I've got to tell you something. And she knew that it was not going to be.
It wasn't a good
yeah,
thing.
it wasn't like, you know, a celebration. It was more of like, I got to tell you something you probably aren't expecting to hear, don't want to hear. And, you know, but she handled it gracefully, considering all that was going on. So.
And he turned out to be a blessing not only for you and for her and for the family,
Yeah.
but for all these other people.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you went through the life of being the pregnant 17-year-old.
Yes.
With, and you were out of high school already,
out of
and you
high school.
still got
Oh.
terrible reactions from
Yes.
people. When a couple of generations ago, it was the age you had babies.
Yeah, you were young. Yes. Yeah, no.
You
it
weren't
was-
even that young. There are 14-year-olds in that position.
Yeah. Well, I looked young, so I
So
I
you
was
looked
17,
younger.
So I probably looked. I guess looking back at myself, I can't believe how young I probably looked. 15, 16. So I looked very young, and being pregnant was fine till there was a certain point where I actually showed, and that's when I felt like society came crashing down on me. That's when I noticed just a complete shift in how I was treated, and that, I think, for me was devastating. That was the part that I saw why girls quit school over. I could see.
Can you imagine going through that in school?
Well, I think it would be very harsh, and then the
And it
other
probably
thing-
wouldn't even be the kids; it would be the kids' parents.
Well, and
would-
that's the other thing. It's because you're friends. I mean, they want to hang out with you, but again, there starts to be a difference in you're thinking about what you're going to do with your life and your baby, and they're
We're
thinking
partying.
about what party, who's having a party this weekend, and the parents absolutely have an influence. They don't want their young child with a mom. I mean, that just they don't want them to learn bad bad habits.
They don't
or
want to think that this is
don't
the
want it
thing they
rub
want
off
to do.
on- Yeah, I mean, they don't want
Right.
to make it nice. But I would tell you, it would be healing for a parent to say, you do have a friend, why don't you go spend time with your pregnant friend? Right?
See what it's like.
Why didn't you go help babysit?
Hold her hair when she pukes.
Exactly. Let her vomit on you, So I think that there could be a lot more. Just, it's such a shameful thing, and it really, even today, I mean, it's probably a little different, but not so much. I mean, I still see young girls walking around and trying to get through the door, and nobody comes and opens the door for them. It's the little things that somehow when you're very, very young and, you're not given the opportunities and the kindnesses that you are when you're older. And that's what I realized when I had my second.
That's what I was
Yeah,
going to say.
yeah.
When to skip over a big
Yes,
a section of your life, you go to
I've got 10
UCF,
years,
you meet
but-
this fabulous guy,
Yes.
but too much is going on. 5 years later, you serendipity,
You got it.
and his determination. You find him again. You get
Yep.
married. You're happy. Career,
Yep.
pregnant, big change.
Shocking. I really didn't know what to expect being pregnant, when I was older. I knew it was going to be a little more challenging because
Were you worried about how people, because of the first time?
I just didn't think about it. Because even when I was young, I don't think I thought it wasn't like I was processing emotionally what was going on.
You were
It
more
was- I
reacting
was
to what was
dealing with
happening.
it.
Okay.
I was walking through it.
Right.
It wasn't until when I got pregnant with Amalia, she's my second one, I realized how really generous people are when you're pregnant. I mean, they wanted to touch my stomach, and I mean, strangers would be like, "Oh, you look
Boy or girl?
yeah,
What's the
asking
names? Yeah.
questions, and that followed through all the way through the pregnancy. And when I had her as an infant, people would come up to me and if she was crying, they didn't give you a dirty look. Is she okay? When you're young and that happens,
They snarl.
And that's what you get. I mean, it's such an evidence of you're getting what you asked for.
Mm-hmm.
This mistake is that your baby is going to act up, or you're probably not a good mom. There's like all this assumption, and I just remember it. I didn't realize it. I just didn't know,
Right.
But once I had her and all the kindness, it was bittersweet for me. I was talking to my husband Joaquin, and I remember, a lady coming up to me, and it was so nice, but at the same time I had pain and like I felt sad. And so it was in talking to him that I realized the sadness is for Kyle. It was for that he really came into a world that said, shame on your mother for having you. And that I didn't think was okay. So that's what I said. It's enough. When it's not okay anymore. And while I've got a job and I've got all these things, I owe it to young moms. I owe it to young, women to really stand up and say, we can become somebody. It is going to be hard work, but life is hard work. Raising kids that's hard work. But we need to give them a lot more than what we're giving them.
Let's talk about the book.
Okay.
And what you are doing
Okay.
for the girls who are
Sure.
going through what you went through, and probably worse. Because when I hear your stories, but as difficult as it is, there's probably so many going through so much worse.
Yes.
The book is Hope, Joy. You can pick it up.
Okay.
Show.
Horatio.
There you go, Turner. There you go. What made you decide to write it?
Really the experience of having Kyle young and then having my second one when I was older. I had a career, a supportive husband, all the things that, when you're supposed to have a baby. Feeling that difference, and then really the knowing that that's not okay. And feeling like I couldn't just go through my life, and I had another baby for, shortly after, 9 months later I got pregnant again, and my life, there was a lot going on, but I felt like I owed it to Kyle and really to these women to say, it's not okay, and to help educate people. I just don't know that, it's not that I don't believe people are intentionally trying to,
No.
I don't think it's intentional. I think it's more a lack of understanding.
And a fear.
Or not knowing what to say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're probably wondering, did she get raped? I mean, they probably have a million things going on in their mind. They don't know, is she glad? Is she, so it's more out of fear of what to say than a malicious intent. I just don't think it's malicious. So I feel like I really got to speak up for the girls, because they're going through what I went through. So they're in the day-to-day grind of, how do I get through this day? How do I try and parent? How do I go to school? A lot of them are in charter schools, trying to get their degree while they have their baby. It's a challenge. I went through college with Kyle. It took me 11 years to get a 4-year degree, but I got it. It took a while.
At least you didn't get it together.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It could be starting now, but so it was. It was a lot to swing. It was a lot, but.
But you've got more than the book. You do even more. This is just the tip of the
iceberg. Well, that was kind of an inspiration coming from knowing that, my life had changed, and I wouldn't feel good to go carry on with my, supportive, loving family and just turn my back on that experience. I felt like that was for a purpose, and that I needed to really expose how it was and to speak up for the girls. And so that was kind of the turning point. And so then this book came to be, and it actually happened very quick. It was written, rather quickly, and then
it was right there.
It was there. It was there. It was waiting. It was, they had 15 years of, in there, and so it was written, and then wrote a poem, which was turned into a song. Then the music video, which we've seen, and so once all that was done, then it was like, you write books, and you usually have an audience that can afford them. Right, you have your audience.
Right.
Well, my audience
can't afford them.
No, and my audience doesn't, for the most part, have internet access. They're not going to bookstores. That's so I really written a book for people who are going to have a challenging time getting it. So knowing that, I then reached out to a charter school in Port Orange, and it's Child's Academy, just a fantastic school, and they're pretty progressive. They said, yeah, you can come on in. So I shared my story with the girls. I kind of told them what it was like, what happened, and then what it's like now. And you could just see their eyes. When I walked into the room, they kind of had their, what is she going to show us?
Oh no, you didn't.
Yeah. What could she possibly tell us? And so we, I kind of went through the story, and then I gave them each a book and a bracelet, and I left there and realized that was really profound. That they're not getting that. And I spoke with the director, Ann, and they put it into the curriculum, so all the girls had to read it as a gift back to me. They did a book critique.
Oh wow!
So that was kind of because I don't believe in just giving and walking away. I think there should be an exchange. And what these girls have is insight. They have something to share back with me, and so that was the expectation. We go, they do a book critique, and then they would give me all the information. So they gave me. They did it in 10 weeks, so all the girls went through the book, and I knew it was going to kind of warm their heart. That was the intention of writing it, is to say you can do this and to give them some steps. But what I wasn't anticipating, or I guess I was even more moved by, is the level at which it penetrated their hearts. I did not anticipate that.
Somebody got them, probably the first time, and they probably never expected that.
I think that, and even like Ann, the director, said, it's profound. This does not happen like this. And when they went through the book, they also gleaned a lot of insight about the girls. Things, what motivates them, what really are their goals and ambitions, which now
do they have any?
They do. You should. I mean, that's. I think that's the misconception too. Is that these girls are just kind of going about life. They want to be good mothers, like I did. I wanted to be
But
good.
do they know how to get there? This will help them know how to get there.
Exactly. That's the challenge. Is like having an idea and not really knowing how to implement a strategy. Not really seeing examples of people who are doing that. So it's really more of like an example, and then I walk them through kind of how do you do it, what are some of the things you can do, and so the feedback was good. And one of the girls, I've written it in a way like the first chapter is like a paragraph. Did you notice? It's very short, so nothing overwhelming, because a lot of these girls, I mean, their teens, they're not all about reading, and they don't want to sit down to a 500-page
Right.
self-help book. Not going to happen.
Right.
And as I was sitting there, the girl opened the book and she read the first paragraph, and she kind of looked and she flipped over and saw that it was chapter 2, and she says to her friend, she kind of taps.
This will be easy.
Yeah, she said, I just read the first paragraph. Read it. I mean, you know, like, and she felt empowered. Like
She could do it.
She could do it. Like, girls, you can get through this book. So that's kind of the message. And, you know, the feedback was great. So then I thought, you know, I need to do more. And so started a foundation, which is still in the process of getting the 501c3 designation. And what the foundation is going to do is really kind of imitate what we did with the Child's Academy, because the impact was great. I think it helps for them to have a personal connection with me, because you can give somebody a book and they can read it and they're going to get some strategies and some tools, but then when they can look and say, I remember her and I remember how she made me feel in that room, then that drives
I
them.
could be her.
Yeah, and I can do it, because they can. And that's what I always, when I walk in.
Did they meet your son? Did they see what happened?
You know,
What's at the other
they
end?
haven't, but
Because that would really make it
real.
real.
It would be amazing. It would be amazing. I brought Joaquin with me, so they saw that I had, even that to them was huge. That to see a couple and a supportive husband.
And you ended up with that.
And I ended up with that. So I'm just
Rachel,
completely honored.
thank you for coming and telling your story, and thank you for doing what you're doing. I wish you the best of luck. Will you come back and update us?
Absolutely
The
will.
book is Hope, Joy, and a few little thoughts for pregnant teens. Rachel Brignoni. I really appreciate this time with you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time on UCF Profile.